Hello everyone, I'm Jeff Greenewalt. Thanks very much for watching this video about the song The Boys Who Wore the Green. The song is a ballad about the 69th New York, a regiment of Irish American soldiers at the Battle of First Bull Run, or First Manassas as it is often called. It's not my intention to tell a detailed story about the battle, but to provide enough background so you can understand what is in the song. The battle took place on July 21st, 1861, in Northern Virginia, not very far from Washington, D.C. It was the first large-scale battle in the American Civil War, and it was also a Union disaster. The 69th Regiment of the New York State Militia was formed in October of 1851, mainly to train Irishmen to one day return home and fight for Irish freedom. This man, Michael Corcoran, was the colonel who led the 69th in the battle. Born in Ireland, and at the age of 18, he took a police job searching for illicit stills. But also, right around the same time, he joined a rebel guerrilla group called the Ribbon Men. And that probably didn't make him very popular with the English, and I imagine things were getting a little hot for Michael in Ireland, so in 1849, he came to the United States, to New York City. And while he was working some jobs there, he enlisted as a private in the 69th New York. But Michael moved up through the ranks and eventually became colonel of the 69th New York. In 1860, the Prince of Wales came to New York and city officials held a parade in his honor. However, as I'm sure you can imagine, Michael and the other members of the 69th New York had no interest in parading in honor of British royalty, and Michael Corcoran refused. Well, as a result, he was facing court-martial, but then the Confederates fired on Fort Sumter and New York needed trained soldiers. The court-martial sort of disappeared. The song mentions this incident when the narrator says he wished the Prince of Wales was there to see Corcoran in the fray and how well he fought. The song also mentions Thomas Francis Maher. Maher was an Irish revolutionary who led the Young Islanders in the revolt of 1848. When the revolt failed, he was captured and sentenced to death for sedition. However, due largely to public pressure, the English government commuted his sentence to banishment in Tasmania, where there was a penal colony, that's in Australia. He escaped from Tasmania in 1852 and went to New York. He worked as a journalist, he studied law, and he also recruited Irish soldiers for the 69th New York, and his recruits formed Company K. The song portrays him as preparing Company K to fight fiercely. The song states that Maher was rallying a Zouave band, and the song also refers to the New York firemen as Farnham's dashing Zouaves. Well, Zouaves were soldiers of the French Foreign Legion, and some soldiers on both the Confederate side and the Union side wore uniforms like those of the Zouaves. Here's a picture of that type of uniform. Now, the natty jacket, the bright red baggy pants might have looked good in a parade, but they proved impractical on the battlefield, and they also made the wearer a conspicuous target. While there were plenty of soldiers dressed that way in the Battle of First Bull Run, units dressed like that became rarer as the war went on and soldiers discovered how impractical these uniforms were. Well, the 69th New York crossed Bull Run Creek on the afternoon of July 21st. By the time they got into the thick of the fray, the battle was already several hours old. They advanced up Henry House Hill, where they encountered the 4th Alabama. The 4th Alabama's members thought the 69th was another Confederate regiment, and this mistake led to the 69th unloading a devastating volley on this Alabama regiment. But unfortunately for the 69th, the fight with the 4th Alabama cost the life of Captain James Haggerty, who was highly regarded by the members of the regiment. The song mentions that his death was greatly lamented by his comrades. Well, the battle went badly for the Union when the Confederates counterattacked. Union troops were retreating everywhere. The 69th made brave but vain charges in an attempt to recapture artillery overrun by the Confederates. The song mentions Corcoran's charge upon the batteries. Corcoran attempted to rally his men by waving the 69th's national colors in the midst of a Confederate attack, but his efforts were in vain. Well, the 69th did stand as an intact regiment longer than many, but soon the general retreat by the mass of Union soldiers turned into a rout, and it eventually swept the 69th along with it and left Corcoran behind to be captured. Maher's Company K carried the colors of the 69th, and Confederates temporarily captured those colors. However, Captain John Wilday of the New York Fire Zouaves, referred to as Farnham's dashing Zouaves in the song, recaptured the colors and returned them to the 69th. This was the 11th New York Regiment. The song tells the story of the capture and retrieval of the colors. In this retreat, Maher's horse went down, and he was saved from capture by a member of the United States Dragoons. He managed to get a ride on an artillery caisson to get away. Well, we don't know who wrote this song. The tune to which it is set is probably Scottish in origin, since it is the tune used for Robert Burns's song, John Anderson, My Joe, dedicated to a very old and close friend of his. To support me and allow me to provide more content, please click on subscribe, and if you like the video, please click on like. Thanks. I hope you enjoy my rendition of The Boys Who Wore the Green. On the 21st of July, beneath the burning sun, MacDowell met the Southern foe in battle at Bull Run. Above the Union vanguard, proudly dancing seen, beside our starry banner was old Erin's flag of green. Colonel Cochrane led the 69th on that eventful day. I wish the Prince of Wales was there to see him in the fray. His charge upon the batteries was the most glorious scene, with the gallant New York firemen and the boys who wore the green. In the hottest of the fire, they rode along the line. The captain of a Zouave band crying, "Now, boys, it's your time." Oh, who is he who proudly rides with bold and dauntless mien? It is Thomas Francis Maher of old Erin's land of green. Oh, the colors of the 69th, I say it without shame, were taken in the struggle to swell the victor's fame. But Farnham's dashing Zouaves that run with the machine retook them in a moment with the boys who wore the green. Being overpowered by numbers, our troops were forced to flee. The Southern Black Horse Cavalry on them charged furiously, but in that hour of peril, the flying master's screen, stood the gallant New York firemen with the boys who wore the green. Oh, the boys of the 69th, they are a gallant band. Boulder never drew a sword for their adopted land. Among the fallen heroes, a braver had not been than you lamented Haggerty of Erin's land of green. Farewell, my noble countrymen who fell upon that day. Farewell, you noble firemen now mouldering in the clay. Whilst blooms the leafy shamrock, whilst runs the old machine, your deeds will lift bold red shirts and the boys that wore the green. After the battle, Maher decided to return to New York, and there he went about creating what would become the famous Irish Brigade in the Army of the Potomac. Michael Corcoran was finally freed by a prisoner exchange in August of 1862. In April of 1862, 3 members of the 69th New York returned to the battlefield, and they located the grave of Captain Haggerty. They returned his remains to New York for a formal funeral and burial. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you got some interesting information, maybe a little something you didn't know before. So thanks very much for watching it, and please take care. By the way, please check out my friends at Gettys Gear, either when you're in Gettysburg or online, and also check out the Hub, their performance venue behind the store where I can often be seen performing.